My name is Jordan Reese, and my partner Courtney Paris and I did our Superfood Duo presentation on the Superfood Amaranth. So if you're like us, when we began this project, you probably don't know what amaranth is. So we've incorporated a couple pictures. On the left, you see how it grows. So it's actually a flower. Obviously, it's not ate that way. As you'll see on the right side, that's in grain cooked form, actually.
Amaranth is a grain that's been grown for many years and is used for its seeds. Aztec used the grain for food, and it was also part of many ceremonies. Although it was banned for some time, it's actually now sold primarily in health food stores like Whole Foods. Raw amaranth is not edible and cannot be digested by humans because it can block absorption of nutrients, so whenever you have it, they always want to make sure it's cooked first. It is rich in phosphorus, manganese, and iron, and it also has a very high protein content, and it can be used for individuals with gluten intolerance and as a substitute for other grains. Amaranth.
So, what actually is an amaranth? The components and the minerals and vitamins that make up amaranth. In one cooked cup, now this is a grain, or grain-like, so it will absorb water when you cook it. So one cooked cup is obviously actually less than one uncooked cup. So that should be noted that these values are for one cooked cup. And in one cup there is 251 calories, 9.3 grams of protein, 46 grams of carbs, 5.2 grams of fat. And as far as the minerals, we've got 105% of the recommended daily intake of manganese, 40% of magnesium, 11% of calcium, which is actually more than milk, so that should be noted. 36% of phosphorus, 29% of iron, and 19% of selenium, and 18% of copper. So you're getting a very solid amount of variety of minerals and definitely a significant amount of carbs and protein with not a lot of fat.
Amaranth is gluten-free, meaning it can be used as a substitute for other grains while cooking. This is very beneficial for anyone who has a gluten intolerance. It also has more protein than other grains, and it is more beneficial to receive protein from a plant source rather than a meat source because meats contain a lot more fats than the plants. It provides the body with antioxidants and minerals, and it's also the only grain to actually contain vitamin C. It can work as an appetite suppressant, and that is because of the amount of protein that is provided. And it provides the body with lysine, which is an essential amino acid that the body cannot manufacture on its own, so it's a good source for that as well. Amaranth.
So, some continued benefits of amaranth. We mentioned that it has lysine in it, which is noted in the significant protein level of amaranth. And what lysine is an essential amino acid, so that means that we have to obtain that from our diet or some sort of supplementation because our body doesn't produce lysine on its own. But lysine is extremely important in protein synthesis and aiding muscle production, and also collagen, digestive enzymes, and protein hormones. So it does a lot, and it's very important that we obtain that through a diet, and amaranth is a great way to incorporate that. Also, it aids in digestion, and it does this because it has a significant fiber content, and it's about 5.2 grams of fiber per cooked cup. So that's cooked again, and that's actually about 21% of the recommended daily intake. So just with one cup you can achieve that. And the importance of fiber, it's not actually gives you any direct benefit, but it does increase nutrient uptake efficiency. So it optimizes the digestive system, and this is really important that it increases the efficiency of uptake of nutrients, because as listed a couple slides ago, there is a variety of those with the vitamins and minerals. So the fiber helps that get absorbed, and so the body can actually use those vitamins, minerals, macronutrients as well. Also, there's phytonutrients found in amaranth, and what these are, they're chemical compounds in the food that give some sort of health benefit to a human. So in this case, the nutrients in amaranth actually lower the risk for cardiovascular disease and hypertension. So when this is aided in the diet, you can actually decrease your risk of these diseases, which are actually very, very abundant in the population, especially in North America and the United States. So some cautions / contradictions of amaranth. We noted that it has a large value of vitamins and minerals, and especially manganese. We said it has 105% of the normal population's recommended daily intakes. Now, recommended daily intakes is based off of kind of the population of an average, rather than obviously specific needs of individuals are different. So some people with some sort of conditions may need less. Some people, specifically usually athletes, need more of these nutrients. Manganese is great when consumed at the recommended daily intake. It aids a lot in neurological function. However, when you reach over a certain limit, it becomes dangerous. And what they've noted is that 11 milligrams per day is unsafe. However, special populations might have a different level of that. As I mentioned, that's not really a say-all for everyone. That's not the end-all be-all number. So especially people that have any sort of trouble getting rid of manganese or vitamins from their body may experience side effects of toxicity from less than 11 milligrams. So that can include individuals with an iron deficiency and a liver deficiency, or a liver disease, excuse me. And this means that their body doesn't process it and get rid of it as much, so it will accumulate and cause potential negative effects. These effects can include shaking and tremors. So kind of gives a lot of Parkinson's disease-like symptoms is what WebMD notes it as mostly, and this occurs when it's consumed in excess. So like we said, that's about 1 cup. Has 105% of the RDI. So that alone won't cause any side effects. Even 2 cups of cooked amaranth won't be causing any side effects, but when you're getting it supplementing from your other food, that's when it can kind of become dangerous.
Amaranth can also provide some aid to people who are physically active. With the high protein content of amaranth, it can be used for supplementation with people who are doing resistance training. It can also be used as an appetite suppressant, which means that it can be a valuable asset to people trying to lose weight. And because it gives the body a source of lysine, it actually helps stabilize functions of the body like sleep and metabolism, and this will help the body perform better during physical activity.
So one study, kind of going off of the benefits of physical activity, looked at supplementing amaranth in use for nitrate. So they used amaranth extract to supplement nitrate to see if there were significant increases in the blood plasma, or actually they looked at the saliva levels as well. And they looked at the nitrate and nitrite levels to see if they would increase. This was a study done in 2016. And nitrite and nitrate are both compounds that are converted into nitric oxide in the body. And nitric oxide is actually really important in the body. It's used in a lot of different ways. It's an important signaling molecule, and it's actually a vital component of the cardiovascular system. So when the results of this study were found that a single oral dose of Amaranth significantly increased the nitrite and nitrate content in the blood plasma as well as saliva for up to 8 hours. Now this is pretty significant because this could help improve overall performance in individuals engaging in vigorous exercise. So this could be really beneficial for athletes as well as just anyone who wants to improve their physical activity level. And how it does this, I said it is a vital component of the cardiovascular system, and nitric oxide is a vasodilator. So this causes increased blood flow to the skeletal muscles, just kind of improves efficiency in the body's way to get oxygen as well as other nutrients to the skeletal muscles so it can be used in exercise. Now, as I showed in the first picture, there's the flower form of Amaranth. That's how it grows, but it can also be converted into a lot of different forms. It should not be eaten as a raw grain. As mentioned earlier, also it contains these sort of anti-nutrients. So all those really great minerals and vitamins that mentioned earlier won't be able to be absorbed in the body, no matter what else. It will not improve it. Now, the second picture that I showed on that first slide was shown as a grain. And technically, Amaranth is a grain. It's not a true grain, but it's kind of similar. Way to think about it is quinoa. It absorbs water. It's called a pseudo cereal. So that's not, it's got very similar properties as some of the other cereals. And it can actually be incorporated in breakfast, as we'll see. It can be popped, boiled, roasted, a lot of different things done to it in that so-called grain form. It could also really grind that up very deeply, and it can be a flour. So this is really great. We mentioned it was gluten-free, so that could be a really great component for baking and just really incorporating these really great properties of this food into your diet more often. And these grains, I have listed seeds because kind of that's sort of the natural form, is that it's a seed, not the flower plant, but within that are the seeds, and that is what is eaten.
Amaranth can be used multiple ways and for multiple substitutions during cooking. It can be used as rice or oatmeal, just like straight from boiling it and getting it ready to eat. Can be served with either one of those. It can be used as an additive to soups or chilies. It also can be used as toppings on desserts as a substitute for nuts. They say that it does kind of have that kind of taste to it. You can also make something like a rice pudding out of it. And it can also be used as a flour substitute for baking, which is really helpful for, once again, the people who do have the gluten intolerance. And then also can be used as an additive to smoothies. So if you're making like protein shakes or protein smoothies, this can be used to kind of get that protein content. Amaranth can be used more.
So as we noted, Amaranth was actually banned for a little bit. So prior to that banning, it was a staple in the diet of the Latin America and actually in some places in Asia in pre-Columbian times. So before kind of the Europeans came to North America, it was a staple in there. And as the European culture came in, they kind of wiped out the use. They didn't use it in agriculture. Really in European, it was mainly used for the decorative component. Kind of a fun fact about this is that in some of the Latin American cultures, Amaranth was incorporated in some of their pagan and sacrifice rituals. So the Europeans kind of associated this actually kind of negatively rather than anything. So that's kind of why it was so-called banned at times. However, recently in the 1970s, more research began to be done on this plant, and you'll see research is kind of from this time on, and it's really been growing and growing, and there's more of a push for actual cultivation and agriculture with amaranth. So it's becoming more and more popular. As I noted earlier, we didn't really hear about this before this project. So mainly it's not really sold super easily. We actually looked a lot, could not find any amaranth to make a recipe with it, so we'll just be sharing one on the slide. But kind of noted, it started in health food stores. You can buy it online if you want. I found that it was $58.36 per pound on Amazon. So if you want to go crazy, look it up right there. So as I noted, it's not really common to purchase in grocery stores, so it's going to kind of be at this time probably not something that's given to like the underclass. But there's actually been another study done that amaranth they served it to African populations that were kind of underserved, and that the amaranth, like soup, they incorporated it in the recipe into soup, really provided most of what was needed for that. And before we get into the references here, I just want to, here are just some that were found online from websites, but here are our journals and really accredited peer-reviewed sources. And as I get into that, I want to share, I noted that it's a suedo cereal. So I want to share our recipe that we found. And the way to prepare amaranth, you need to boil water. It's kind of similar to quinoa, as I said. Boil water, about 2.5 cups for 1 cup of amaranth. And what this do, it's going to just absorb all that water. So bring it to boil for about 20 minutes until all the water is absorbed. Once that's done, you add 1/2 cup of almond milk, and then really it's kind of the desired consistency. You can top it with whatever nuts, fresh fruits, or any sort of sweetener, such as you can do brown sugar or honey or agave. What I would really like to do with this is top it with almonds, blueberries, and then a little bit of honey on top. And this is a super, super easy way to use amaranth, and wish it was slightly more available because it's got a lot of really good components that, as I said, is being researched more, and so hopefully we'll be able to see it more pop up in stores.